Good morning, everyone. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create a custom VPC. So the objective of creating a custom VPC is not to have a default one. Create your own route entries, create your own subnets, and put it in the zone of your choice. So what I'll do here is that I'm going to choose the New Zealand region over here, and I'm going to create a VPC over here. So I'll go to VPC and I'll go to my VPC. So we already have two VPCs over here. So I'm going to create a new VPC, which is a custom VPC. So before we begin, I just need to tell you that VPC is one of the services that you can use it for free. So there is no charge to it, but some of the components are paid. So for example, if I choose my VPC, then it is going to create everything for you. You don't have to do anything. So route table, etc. All you need to do is that you just need to enter the CIDR block. So if I say 192.168.0.0/24 and I say create by yourself, it is going to name as project VPC. So I'll just call it as custom NZ VPC, which is the name it is given here. And the subnets are created. One is a public and a private, All public subnets have got public route table entries, and all private subnets have got private entries. So private subnets don't go to internet until we give them a NAT gateway. So I'm not giving NAT gateway. I'm not also giving S3 gateway. So nothing. So I just created two subnets in two regions. So 6A, 6B. If there are more subnets you want, you can create more, but we'll just stick with two by default. And if we have got three availability zones, we can use all of them, but I'll just go with two. But if you want, you can create all three of them. So we again have one public subnet, which takes to all resources. So default name is given. If you want, you can change the names later. And these are the private subnets. I'll still go with two, so that okay, I'll stay with three, I'll delete it later. And I'm going to click on create VPC. So it's all done. This is the easiest way to do it. But if you want to create it manually, that also I'll show you, and your entries are created. And you can see that you have got an internet route to all the public subnets, and all the private subnets will kill themselves. This is the main route table. Should be ignored because this comes with a part of the default VPC. Now all the subnets, you will see them over here. They are created and they will be available over here. So you can see their names and you can filter them. So there is custom subnet public in zone 1, zone 2, which is 6A, 6B, 6C, and private subnets. Route table entries are also created. You can refresh the page and check. You have a private route table which goes nowhere, public route table, private route table, and so on. Internet gateway, every VPC has got one internet gateway. One VPC can only be associated to one internet gateway. If you want that VPC to be associated to another internet gateway, then you have to disassociate that VPC from another internet gateway and associate it to this internet gateway. So this is the internet gateway that is created, which is associated with this VPC. If you want, you can disassociate it or detach it and attach it to another VPC. So one internet gateway, one VPC. Then you have security groups, etc. So this is in addition to that. So some of the paid services here are NAT gateway, some endpoint services, especially data transfer, and elastic IP. Just out of this block, most of the other services are free. Now I'll show you another way how to create a custom VPC. So I'll go to VPC, I'll go to this VPC, and I'm going to delete it. And I'll say delete VPC. And I'll type delete. Delete it. I'll also delete this VPC which I just created. And I'll type delete. So now we have got one VPC, which is a default VPC, and I'll refresh this page. So if you click on this, this is how the resource map looks like. Everything is public, there is no private subnets. Go to subnets, refresh, all is gone. Root table, if you click, everything is gone. So similarly, if you go to internet gateway, all services are deleted because we have deleted them. I'll again go to VPC and I'll also delete default one. And I'll say delete default VPC. And done. This is also gone. So let's create a custom VPC. And this time I'll do it manually. So I'll call this as custom VPC NZ. I'll use the IP address of 192.168.0.0/24. So this gives me approximately 256 IP addresses. And this is the name and create. So now I have got a VPC. I have no subnets, but a root table will always come with it, which is main root table. We will ignore it and we'll use our root table. So let's go to subnets. Let's start creating subnets. Create subnet. I'll select this VPC. I'll call it as custom public subnet 1. I'll put it in availability zone A, and I'm not going to use all of them. I'll just use 192.168.0.0/22. So sorry, 26. This will give me 64 IP addresses. So you can see it here. This is the name, and I create this up. So if you want to know more about this calculation, I'll show it to you later how to calculate it. I'm going to create another subnet, same VPC. I'll give a same name, custom pub SN2, which is public subnet 2. I'm going to put it in zone B, and I'm going to use 192.168.0.64/26 because first 63 are taken 0 to 63. Next pool of IP addresses will start from 64 to 127, and I'm going to create it. And now you have got two subnets, public subnet 1, and you can see the information here. This is 192.168, and total number of IP addresses are 59. 5 are kept by AWS. From every subnet, AWS will keep 5 subnets. Then I'm going to create another subnet. This time it will be private one. So I'll call it as custom priv SN1. I'm going to put it in availability zone A, and I'm going to use the same CIDR block, and I will use 192.168.0.120 64 plus 64 128/26 because it ended at 127, the previous one. So if you see here, this was 26 from 64, now we have from 128, and final one will have from 192. So every subnet is 64. So now again I'll call it as custom priv SN2. Yeah, and I'm going to put it in 6B, and I'll use same 192.168.0.192/26 and create. So now all our subnets are created, and I think we have got the same naming convention. We also have these subnets which are connected to the same VPC, which is custom VPC 59, and the zones AZ1 and AZ2. So you can see all these things. Now we'll create a internet gateway. So this is the default one which is deleted. Now we'll create our own, which was previously deleted by us, and I'll call it as custom VPC IGW. That's it, created. And as I said, every internet gateway can be associated to one VPC because internet gateway takes you to internet. I'll click on action and I'll say attach to VPC. There is only one VPC, and now you see that this VPC is now will be attached to this VPC. So if you go to VPC and if you click on this and if you click on resource map, now you will start seeing that there's a VPC internet gateway, but there is no root connectivity. Everything is connected to the main root table. We don't want it. So public subnet only, which has got public resources like your web server, can go and access the internet. But private resources, which we usually keep in private subnet like databases, we don't want them to access internet, and we want them to be secure. So to do that, we'll go to root tables, we'll refresh it, and there's a default root table. So I'll just rename it as main RT, and I'll ignore it. Now I'm going to create a new root table. I'll call it as custom public RT. That's it. Select the VPC, save. So we have got a root table now that is custom and it is public attached to the VPC. We'll create another root table, custom priv RT. This is for private. Select, save. Now we have got all the root tables for us. We have a public root table and private root table. Now public root table we want to connect to public subnet. So we'll click on subnet association. We will say edit subnet association, and I'm going to say I'm going to attach public subnet 1 and public subnet 2 to public root table. So now my subnet association is here. Similarly, I'll go to private root table. I'll go to subnet association. I'm going to click on edit subnet association and I'm going to select private. So private subnet has got private subnet association and public subnet has got public subnet. If we click on root, they don't go anywhere. So if I refresh it or if I click on anything, there is nothing. But if you go to public subnet, that also goes nowhere. We want all the resources and public subnet to go to internet. We'll edit the root. We are saying add a root. Anybody coming from anywhere in this public root table, send them to internet gateway. Internet gateway is this. Save. Now if anybody comes from internet, can go to internet. Let's go to our VPC. Let's click on resource map and now have a look. So we have a public root table which is connected to public subnets and going to internet. We have a private root table which stops there only. So any resources that we create in the private subnet will never go out to public internet. So I hope that you understand how to create a custom VPC, create subnet, associate root tables, associate subnets, and create your tools and services that are associated. So now when you want, you can create NAT gateway. You can watch my other videos, how to create NAT gateway, how to deploy endpoint services, how to deploy elastic IP, because elastic IP are static IPs. These IPs never change, but dynamic IPs that are always associated to most of the resources change every time we close the resource or shut down the resource. Any questions? Please reach me. Thanks for watching.